Fellow Ambazonians, comrades in arms for a free and independent Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. Good day and happy Independence Day. On this significant day, October 1st, we all pause and gather in spirit to reflect on the meaning and the weight of history. This day, 63 years ago, we were told we had gained independence, an independence that came not by our own singular resolve, but by joining the so-called brothers of La République du Cameroon. Yet today, as we stand here, as you listen to the sound of my voice, we have little, if anything, to show for that so-called independence or freedom. Our forefathers, great statesmen like Dr. E.M.L. Ndeli, Augustine Ngomjua, and John Foncha would be doing spins in their graves today. These titans of our history labored in earnest, believing they were paving the way to a future where their children and grandchildren would walk tall, proud, and free. But alas, 63 years later, their bloodline is still entangled in the same struggle, the same fight that should have ended with them through petitions and international diplomacy. These men fought for over half a century, 55 years to be exact, believing in the legitimacy of law, the justice of self-determination, and the humanity of dialogue. But what was the fruit of those long years? Fellow Ambazonians, for 8 years now, we are locked in battle with those who were once told are our brothers. But tell me, how do brothers annex their kin? How do brothers oppress, marginalize, and grind their siblings under the iron heel of tyranny? Theirs are not the actions of brothers. These are the actions of conquerors, and it is high time we recognize the bitter truth, and it is that the so-called independence by joining La République du Cameroon was no independence at all. It was a scam, a Trojan horse that delivered us, shackled and bound as a gift to La République du Cameroon. For 63 years, we have lived under the shadow of deceit and betrayal. Today, we gather not to celebrate our advancements, for we are still bound. Today, we do not cheer for a military that protects our sovereignty or defend our homeland, for we remain occupied. Today, we do not rejoice in economic growth or infrastructure, for we remain marginalized. No, today we reflect on what could have been and what it still can be. When other nations celebrate their Independence Day, they do so with fireworks, parades, and pride in their military, their flag, and their heroes. We too have our own heroes, and we have our flag, our glorious Ambazonian flag, the symbol of our unbroken spirit. But how do we celebrate under occupation? How do we throw our arms into the air when chains still weigh down upon us? No, today is not a day of empty jubilation. It is a day of resolve, a day of fortifying our spirit, and a day of looking forward to a brighter dawn. That is what this is all about. In this summer moment, let us find comfort in one truth. This war will not last forever. The day is coming and it is not far, ladies and gentlemen, the sun of freedom will rise over Ambazonia, and when it does, we will gather free men and women, and we will hold hands, hug one another, and cast aside the memories of occupation. Our children will no longer have to fight, same fight that their grandparents began. They will grow up knowing only the peace and prosperity of a free and sovereign Ambazonia. To our heroes and martyrs, Field Marshal of Ambazonia, General Ivo Mba, General Chacha, Commando, No Pity, Isubu, Amigo, Ten Kobo, Transporter, and all others who have sacrificed their lives for this just cause. We owe an immeasurable debt. They are not forgotten. Their spirits live on in our cause, and their courage fuels our determination. They remind us every day that this fight is not in vain, that every step, every sacrifice brings us closer to the promised land. The blood they spilled nourishes the soil of our freedom, and their names are etched in the annals of our history. This is why we fight. We fight not for glory, not for vengeance, but for justice. We fight so that the generations that come after us will walk on a land that is truly their own. We shall prevail. We are a people who refuse to be defeated. No amount of oppression, no volume of military might, no death of cruelty can extinguish the flame of freedom that burns within all of us, Ambazonians. I urge you to look into the future with hope, for our cause is just. We are not alone. The world is watching, and history is on our side. Empires of oppression may rise, but they always fall. The same will be true for those who dare to hold Ambazonia in chains. So today, let us not hang our heads. Let us lift them high. For we are Ambazonians, strong, proud, and unyielding. We have carried this torch for 63 years, and though the road has been long and treacherous, we will carry it still until we reach our destination. We will honor our past, live with courage in the present, and forge a future that is bright with a light of true freedom. Fellow Ambazonians, today I speak to you with the unwavering conviction, listen to the sound of my voice, unwavering conviction that burns in every heart committed to the liberation of our homeland. Yes, there have been setbacks, and yes, there have been arrests. Some of our comrades have been unjustly imprisoned, silenced by the shackles of tyranny. But let me say this clearly. We are not surprised, and neither should you be. Anyone who enters this noble fight for freedom must do so with their eyes wide open, knowing the risks that come with it. We are engaged in this struggle, knowing that persecution, prison, and even death are part of the package. I am not ignorant of this. We are fully aware, and still we press on. Look to history and be reminded, liberation is never cheap. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years behind bars, branded a terrorist. But in the end, he emerged victorious as a global symbol of justice and freedom. This is the path of every liberator. They are called separatists, criminals, terrorists, rebels, traitors, until they win. Then, and only then, the world sings their praises. Ambazonians, this is our fate, and we must embrace it. We will not falter because some of our comrades are arrested. The oppressors' tactics are as old as time itself. But our resolve is born of something far greater. Our unbreakable belief in the justice of our cause. No chain can bind the spirit of a people destined for freedom. We do not cower, ladies and gentlemen. We do not cower in fear of arrest. On the contrary, each arrest strengthens our resolve. If they think imprisoning us will weaken our movement, they are mistaken. They have not learned their lessons. If La République du Cameroon believes that the recent arrest in no way will send the movement into retreat, they are fooling themselves. They have not learned from the arrest of Sisiko Ayoktabe. We are more resolute today than ever before. Each attempt to silence us only adds fuel to our burning desire for freedom and justice. We are prepared. Arrest us, imprison us, but Ambazonia will not be silenced. The idea of a free Ambazonia cannot be put in chains, nor in prison. What we cannot and will not tolerate, however, is internal sabotage. Let me be clear. We did not set out to free Ambazonia from the oppressive grip of La République du Cameroon, only for our people to suffer at the hands of so-called liberators within our ranks. To those who have turned their weapons on our civilians, to those who abduct, demand ransoms, and terrorize our own people, you are not fighting for Ambazonia. You are fighting for selfish gain. Every indication indicates you will be held accountable. We will not tolerate this betrayal of our cause. We set out to free our people from oppression, not to replace one form of tyranny with another. We will not allow our fellow Ambazonians, especially on the ground, to live in fear of those who claim to be their protectors. Any fighter who raises a gun against an innocent Ambazonian civilian is not a restoration fighter. He is a criminal and must be treated as such. Kidnappings, ransom demands, unlawful road closures, extortion through so-called liberation tax, and even the absurdity of demanding that taxis change their colors. These are not the actions of freedom fighters. These are the actions of thugs. And thuggery has no place in the Ambazonian struggle. Let me state this emphatically. Ambazonia is the people, by the people, and for the freedom of the people. We cannot say we fight for our people, only to turn around and make them the victims of the same fight. Our enemies are those who stand in the way of our freedom, referring to La République du Cameroon and its agents of oppression, not the very people we have vowed to liberate. We will continue to condemn from this interim government, without mincing words, any group or individual who turns the gun against our civilians. We will challenge and expose any unethical and unlawful actions that harm our own. However, this is not to say that we will allow collaborators with La République du Cameroon to operate with impunity. Far from it. Those who betray our cause from within are even more dangerous than the soldiers of La République du Cameroon. They wear no uniform, but they live among us, pretending to be on our side while working for the enemy. These collaborators are wolves in sheepskin, and they must be rooted out and given the punishment they deserve. Restoration fighters who identify these traitors have our full and complete support to ensure they receive the justice they earn. Fellow Ambazonians, our land bleeds, our people cry out, and our destiny calls. It is time for Ambazonian leaders to come together, stand shoulder to shoulder, and recalibrate the direction for our liberation crusade. For too long, we have been divided in our efforts, fractured in our approaches, and distracted from the goal that brought us together in the first place. The moment tells of the hour for unity is now. We can still forge the united front that will lead Ambazonia to its rightful place among the nations of the world. We must realize that our divisions are the greatest weapon in the hands of our oppressor, our colonizer. Cameroon does not fear our guns, nor our defiance. They fear the day we unite. Given the moment, let us make that happen now. And I mean now. As leaders, it is our duty to recalibrate, to assess the current trajectory of our efforts, and realign with the ultimate goal of Ambazonian independence. This recalibration is not just about strategy, it is about survival. The world is watching, and so are our people on the ground. They look to us to lead them out of the darkness of occupation, not to fight among ourselves. Let us put aside personal ambitions and the petty rivalries that have plagued our cause. History will not remember the titles we held or the factions we led. History will only remember the victory or the defeat of our people. And I speak to you today to say that victory is very much within our reach. It will be quickened if we move together as one body, one with one purpose. We have fought valiantly on the ground, and our fighters have shown immense courage and bravery. But without order, our bravery risks being wasted. Without discipline, our sacrifices are diminished. Lawlessness has no place in Ambazonian cause, for it is chaos that our oppressor thrives on. It is lawlessness that weakens our defense and gives La République du Cameroon the pretext to paint us as disorganized rebels rather than freedom fighters with a righteous cause. Fellow Ambazonians, we must instill order in our ranks. Every Ambazonian soldier must know their mission. Every Ambazonian citizen must feel safe under the protection of our fighters. We cannot allow rogue elements to undermine the integrity of what we are fighting for. It is time to eviscerate the disorder that has, in some instances, tarnished the noble nature of our cause. The people trust us to bring them a better tomorrow. But if we cannot impose discipline on ourselves, how will we bring order to an independent Ambazonia? How will we govern if we cannot first lead by example in times of war? The time to restore order is now. We owe it to those who have died, those in prison, and those who still believe in the dream of Ambazonia. The strength of any movement is in its unity, And the strength of unity is in speaking with one voice. A cacophony of messages and mixed signals has confused our people and emboldened our enemy. Cameroon mocks us because we have not presented a united front, because we have too often spoken in fragmented, contradictory tongues. We must speak with one voice, clear and resolute. A voice, ladies and gentlemen, that declares that we are no longer divided. A voice that signals to the international community that Ambazonia is a force to be reckoned with, not a disjointed chorus of competing agendas. We must have one message. Independence is that message, not autonomy, not decentralization, but only independence. This voice must be carried forth by all of us, from every leader to every fighter on the ground and to every citizen of Ambazonia. And when that voice rises, unified and unyielding, the world will no longer be able to ignore our cry for freedom. Our vision must be crystal clear. We are not just fighting to end Cameroon's oppression. We are fighting to build a nation, a country, a nation where justice prevails, where freedom reigns, and where every citizen, every Ambazonian, from the villages of the north to the coast in the south, lives with dignity and with purpose. But we cannot build this vision alone. Every faction, every leader, every fighter must come together to forge this vision. It is not enough to overthrow our oppressor. We must know what we will replace it with. We need a blueprint, a roadmap, and that can only come through collaboration and mutual respect. No one leader has all the answers, but together we can craft the future that our people deserve. The enemy is weakening, and there will come a time soon when they will be forced to the negotiating table. But we must be ready. We must lay down the modalities for what those negotiations will look like. We must be prepared to present a coherent, united front with a clear set of demands and non-negotiables. We must not enter those talks, ladies and gentlemen, as scattered groups with conflicting agendas. If we do, Cameroon will walk all over us. We must enter as one, strong, firm, and unwavering. And we must know, going in, what we are willing to accept and what we are willing to die for. Independence must be the bottom line. Anything less is a betrayal of the sacrifices made by our people, our heroes. If there is ever a moment for us to put aside our differences, it is now. And I mean now. The wind is at our backs. The tides of history turning in our favor, but only if we seize the moment. There is an upcoming consultative conference scheduled for next month, that is November. It offers us such a perfect opportunity to come together as leaders and put our house in sync. This conference is not just another meeting. It is a chance, a once-in-a-lifetime chance for every stakeholder, every major leader to come together and put Ambazonia first. It is my deepest hope that every one of you will answer this call and make Ambazonia proud. The people are watching, they are waiting, and they are ready to follow if only we will lead. Fellow comrades, in my appeal for unity, it is crucial to differentiate between those who genuinely stand with us in the fight for Ambazonia's independence and those who masquerade as allies while peddling false agendas. Not everyone, ladies and gentlemen, not everyone who named Ambazonia represents the true aspirations of our people. There is one voice in particular that we must address and take note, and that is Capo. Let it be clear, Capo does not represent Ambazonia. He does not speak for us, nor does he embody the spirit of the struggle we've endured. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, he no longer speaks the same language as the rest of us. His rhetoric has diverged so far from our core beliefs that he now pushes a concept called devolution, a dangerous and deceptive alternative to our mission for full independence. Devolution is simply another word for autonomy, a thinly veiled ploy to keep Ambazonia shackled to Cameroon under the illusion of self-governance. Make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen. Autonomy is not independence. Autonomy means remaining within one Cameroon, a state of oppression and subjugation. We've sacrificed far too much to ever accept it again. Our people have shed their blood, sacrificed their lives, and endure unspeakable suffering for independence. Not some hollow compromise designed to appease the regime in Yaoundé. Autonomy is a betrayal of everything we've fought for. And those who preach this false gospel do not stand with us. They are agents of division, sent to weaken our resolve and to dilute the strength of our fight, our cause. Therefore, any message and meetings from Capo must be treated with extreme caution. He is not speaking for Ambazonia. He is promoting an agenda that leads straight back to the very chains we are trying to break. He is a snake in the grass, a dangerous opportunist, and no true Ambazonian can share a table with him. But there is more to expose about Capo. Capo is not just a traitor to the cause. He is also deeply entangled in a web of lies and deceit regarding his former alliances. In light of recent developments, following the arrest of Cho Ayaba, it has become alarmingly clear that Capo has volunteered himself as a chief prosecution witness against Cho Ayaba. He is positioning himself as a savior, offering up information against Ayaba with the goal being to shield himself, protect himself from the very crime for which Ayaba is being charged. This is a blatant attempt to deflect attention from his own complicity and to paint himself as innocent. But, we see through this game. Let's be absolutely clear. If Ayaba is guilty for the alleged crimes, then Capo is no less culpable. For years, they were partners. Ayaba, leading the ADF as CIC, Commander-in-Chief, and Capo Daniel served as his second-in-command, his deputy. Together, they orchestrated and oversaw operations, many of which now stand accused of war crimes. How then can Capo Daniel point fingers at Cho Ayaba while his own hands are stained with the same blood? Let me address the specific allegations Capo Daniel has now begun to publicly hurl at Cho Ayaba. Capo Daniel claims that Ayaba ordered the killing of Florence Ayafo, the public executions in the market square in Guzan, the natural killings, and the assassination of Senator Henry Keminde. These are grave accusations, and if true, they demand justice. However, what Capo Daniel fails to mention is that Ayaba's second-in-command, he was not just a passive observer, he was an active participant. By default, he bears as much responsibility for these allegations as Cho Ayaba does. He was at the helm of the ADF operations, fully aware of and involved in the execution of these heinous acts, allegedly. Capo Daniel's attempt to wash his hands off these crimes is an insult to the intelligence of every Ambazonian. The simple truth is that he cannot absorb himself by turning on his former ally, his former boss. He is just as guilty, and any legal proceedings that focus solely on Cho Ayaba while letting Capo Daniel walk free would be a mockery of justice. If the authorities in Norway, where Ayaba is currently detained, are genuinely committed to pursuing justice, they cannot stop at Ayaba. They must look further and examine the rule of Capo Daniel. His newfound willingness to testify against Cho Ayaba is nothing but a self-serving ploy to avoid the consequences of his own actions. We cannot allow him to escape accountability. We have seen how the Norwegian authorities collaborated with the United States government in raiding the homes of some of Cho Ayaba's collaborators in the United States. This demonstrates their willingness, that means the Norwegian willingness, to pursue justice across borders. We call on them to show the same commitment by working with the Canadian authorities, the Canadian government, to investigate and hold Capo Daniel accountable for his role in the very same charges that Ayaba Cho is being charged with. It is hypocritical and unjust for Capo Daniel to be allowed to walk freely while pointing fingers when he was Ayaba's right-hand man during the period in which these atrocities were allegedly committed. If Cho Ayaba, ladies and gentlemen, is guilty, then Capo Daniel must face the same scrutiny. He cannot hide behind his words, blaming his former commander while attempting to present himself as innocent. The people of Ambazonia deserve the truth, and we demand full justice. That means holding all perpetrators accountable, not just selectively prosecuting one while letting another go free because he now claims to be on the side of law and order. Justice must be blind. Justice must be blind. It must be impartial. It must not be swayed by the self-serving testimonies of individuals seeking to save their own skin. If the legal process in Norway is serious about uncovering the truth behind these crimes, It cannot ignore Capo Daniel's rule. The people of Ambazonia will not stand by and watch as one man is in prison while another equally guilty is allowed to continue spreading his poisonous agenda. Ambazonia's fight, ladies and gentlemen, for independence has no room for opportunists, for traitors, or those who seek to divide us with their double-dealing tactics. Capo Daniel has shown his true colors. He has betrayed the cause, and now he seeks to betray even his own former allies to save himself. But we will not allow him to rewrite history. We know the truth, and we will not rest until justice is served in full. Ambazonia, I urge you to stand united. But we must be vigilant too. We must weed out those who speak with forked tongues, those who pretend to stand with us while working against our interests. Capo Daniel is one such individual, and we must reject his divisive rhetoric and his treacherous actions. Let this be a call to all true Ambazonians. Stay the course, remain resolute, and do not be swayed by those who seek to undermine our struggle from within. Fellow Ambazonians, our people's hearts are yearning to return home, to walk on the soil of a liberated Ambazonia, to feel the warmth of freedom in the air, and to build anew. They want to build their homes, businesses, and legacies that will stand tall. We know that our brothers and sisters dream of returning home to raise monuments of their labor and success. There is no shame at all in that. But let me tell you, my dear people, no matter how grand a house you build, no matter how prosperous a business you establish, history will not remember you for what you own. Everybody owns something, but the weight of history is borne by those who have fought, bled, and sacrificed to make the world a better place. Today, the burden of our liberation war is being carried by just a few, those who understand the cause of liberty and have chosen to stand in the gap, often at great personal expense. Yet, too many of us have chosen comfort over contribution, safety over sacrifice. I tell you now, this struggle is not for a few. It is for every single Ambazonian. It is our collective responsibility, and those who avoid that duty are abandoning their own freedom. If you believe, as I do, that our day of victory will certainly come, and believe me, it will, then you must ask yourself what side of history you want to stand on. Do you want to be remembered as someone who cowered in the face of oppression, waiting for others to fight and win your battles for you? Or do you want to be remembered as someone who stood up and said, I will not sit idly while my brothers and sisters bear the brunt? Where will you be counted? The war we are waging is not just a battle of bullets and guns. It is a battle of resolve, of resources, and of relentless spirit. Victory may take time, and the road may be long, but I tell you today, there is no if left in this war. Victory will come. We are condemned to win. The only question is, when the dawn of freedom breaks, Will you be among those who help make it possible? Or will you stand ashamed knowing that you did nothing when your people needed you the most? The other day, a comrade reached out to me with a question. He said that in many ways. A question which is in the minds of many people. He asked, how will those of us who support the struggle be compensated when it is all over? My answer to him was clear. Do not worry. Do not worry. We have structured this struggle in such a way that we know who is contributing. County by county, LGA by LGA. We know exactly who has stood with us and who has not. In the BLM, for example, I know the true patriots who have carried the weight of this struggle. In Mezam, in Mayu, in Meme, Momo, in Kambe, Boyo, all those places, every corner of Ambazonia, we know those who have sacrificed and continue to do so for the sake of our freedom. Mark your words. Like in the case of Eritrea, a day is coming when those who have refused to contribute, who have turned their backs on their own people in this critical moment, they will stand with deep regrets, They will pay, not just in material terms, but with a heavy burden of shame. For they will realize they missed their chance to be a part of something much greater than themselves. As we celebrate this great day, our 63rd independence or anniversary of our independence, I make a direct appeal to every Ambazonian listening to the sound of my voice in the diaspora. It is time to renew your commitment to this cause because we're not losing it. I understand that times are hard. I know that many of us are dealing with personal struggles too. Economic difficulties, inflation, and the pressures of living far from home. But let me remind you, as difficult as life may be in the diaspora, it pales in comparison to the suffering of our people back at home. They endure unimaginable pain, loss, and hardship every single day. Yet they remain steadfast in their belief that freedom will come. They have not given up on our liberation. How then can we sit in comfort in the diaspora while they fight on our behalf? There are fewer and fewer donors left to carry the load, and they are overburdened. The demands from ground zero are only increasing. And every day, our brave fighters are displaced. Families, our wounded comrades, they need more resources just to survive. How can we, in good conscience, remain indifferent while the needs of homeland grow more urgent by the day? I appeal to you now. I plead with you now to stand up and be counted. We cannot afford to remain passive. This is the moment in history where every Ambazonian chooses whether to act or to fall silent. The world will remember us, not for the size of our bank accounts or the businesses we built, but for the sacrifices we made in the pursuit of freedom. It is time to show up, to contribute, and to fight for the future of our homeland. We all can afford to give. If each of us commits even just $10 a month, we can make an enormous impact. Imagine the collective power of that sacrifice. Imagine how much stronger our forces would be, how much more support we could provide to our displaced refugees or families. The difference you make today may seem small in the moment, but it could be the very thing that tips the scales towards victory. Please go to amberdeals.com, amberdeals.com today, on this Independent Day, and enroll as a supporter of the cause. Let your name be recorded among those who fought for the liberation of Ambazonia. When you go to bed at night, you will sleep with the peace of mind that you too are part of this great struggle for freedom. You will sleep well knowing that you are not one of the indifferent, but one of the brave. In the future, when your children and grandchildren ask you what role you played in the liberation of Ambazonia, you will not have to hang your head in shame. You will tell them proudly, I stood with my people. I sacrificed when it mattered the most. Fellow Ambazonians, this is the time. This is the hour. Our homeland cries out for liberation, and it is up to us, the Ambazonian, the diaspora, to answer that call. Let us show up. Let us contribute. Let us save our homeland. Because when all is said and done, this is what history will remember you for. Not your wealth, not your possessions, but your courage to stand when it mattered the most. May God bless you all. May God bless Ambazonia. Long live the Federal Republic. Short live the war.